I'm just going to pull up a few of them because they might be interesting. My proudest moment with this is that we did this research in 2017 and 18 when we were looking at security in 2038. And at that time, one of the paradigms that was just like taken for granted was this idea of username and passwords. And this is also like a huge attack vector because everyone wants to steal credentials to go do bad things with them. And so at that time, I had the concept of having like no more passwords. And interesting, we were talking about using zero knowledge proofs and biometrics as a way to potentially reduce the use of passwords and have something that's more secure and more difficult to have credential stealing. Back in 2018, it was crazy. No one was talking about passwords. That was just the way the world worked then. And now, we have a lot of different options that aren't passwords. Magic links, zero knowledge, security at the edge, new concepts. And that was interesting. Some of the other old paradigms and new paradigms that might be interesting are user is the weakest link in security. And in tech, we always like to blame the user, blame it. They screwed up. They forgot their password. They put their password on a post-it note. But what if we built security that actually augmented what humans are really good at instead of like fighting with our human experience? Anyway, I could talk more about that, but that's kind of how I got into it. And yeah, I've written some books. I also like exploring spies and espionage. That kind of was like on the edge. Also, really curious about studying disinformation and misinformation and psychological manipulation and like social engineering and everything. Though, what I look at is I'm motivated to have people be empowered to make more conscious decisions and have more conscious awareness. And hopefully give like all the people like you and people who are listening to you like extra tools and powers so that you can be heroes in your own areas because we can all influence the future in very different ways.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like when I think back in my career, like when I was trying to do some work that would prepare, like my team for the future, with a solution and whatnot, I remember very clearly, right? I wanted to put all of our work on hold and really optimize, the rules that we were putting into this one particular tool. Because we were seeing a lot of performance issues and our rules were very inefficient. And my argument was we should probably have like, I don't know, maybe 25% or 20% of what we actually have. That would reduce it to, 50 rules compared to the insane amount that we had. And a part of it was actually, me having the vendor's like top architect come into the environment, review, every single rule that we created, tell us what the most efficient ones are, tell us which ones we can get rid of and how to do it and everything. And when he did, he came back and he said, yeah, you guys only need like 25 rules, to do everything. And you guys have over 800 at the time.
Mm.
And the issue was that my manager didn't really see it that way. He saw it as, well, we need to keep pushing forward and we'll correct it as we go. But at the level of work and effort that we were putting in for like current ongoing initiatives, there was no way that we were ever going to like go back and actually clean it up or anything. And I eventually left that company, and I still, kept in touch with people that were there on the team and whatnot. And the one guy that was left on the team, he told me, he goes, "Hey, we're finally like doing the cleanup." He's like, "Well, I'm actually doing the cleanup." And I said, "Oh, okay. Let me know how it goes." And like 18 months later, he says, "I finally got done. Like now we're running really efficiently." And I mean, we had so many issues with the solution just because it was running so inefficiently. You would make a change and it would take 2 to 4 hours for that change to actually like take place unless you went into the SQL database and like manually triggered it.
Wow.
It's like, guys, you understand that this is like a really bad way to interact with a SQL database.
So, okay. Well, clearly you are of a futurist mind. You can tell with your quantum and this. It is very hard to make the case for a lot of executives in traditional organizations. And that is unfortunately because they are just really dealing at the fire drill level. I mean, I know thinking a little bit about the future opens a little bit more capacity. I guess if I were to have to pitch this, I think maybe the most successful way to pitch this would be about increasing internal resiliency. Increase the resiliency of your systems, right? Because in the example you brought up, the tool product wasn't running efficiently. And I don't know if something had broken or gone wrong, maybe it would have been a really